Hey, everybody, and welcome back to For the
Booze.
Booze.
Welcome back to For the Booze
Hello,
podcast.
hello.
This week we're doing the second part.
We are.
We're going to finish this bad boy off.
Part-2.
Part-2, as a man named Chris once said. But yeah, we are going to get into all the spooky stuff that goes on here. It's going to be kind of a weird collection of stuff. There's going to be some stuff. But before we do that, I hinted last week to some EVPs that were sent in. By a friend of the show, Joe Malvern.
Yes.
And I was going to wait till the end, but I've been holding on to these things for weeks. And I want to hear them.
We want to hear them.
Yeah. So these are actually from Crescent. Did I say we were doing part 2 of Crescent? Did I say that?
No.
Okay, good. It just dawned on me that maybe I said that. But
You didn't.
okay, we're doing part 2 of Brushy Mountain.
Yes.
But these are from Crescent. I was trying to figure out a way to get these into the show, and I figured, well, we're already doing a prison, so it seems like
Prison themes.
it seems like a pretty good way to shoehorn these things in here. So there's 4 of them. I have no idea how long they are. I truly have not listened to these yet. So we'll just start with one, and we'll see what we got going on here, and we'll play the game of, do you hear it? What do you hear? Because I have no idea what any of these say.
Yay. I'm excited.
So here is the first one. I'm not sure. Let's do one more time.
Okay.
I hear a whispery sound.
Yeah, almost like a female whisper.
It's exactly what I was going to say, like a female whisper.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like undertoned in there.
I have no idea what it says, though.
It's echoey, so it's kind of hard to decipher, but I definitely hear a whispering.
Well, this is probably like a group investigation.
Yeah. Well, and you're walking around in these like big, open, empty spaces. Of course, it's going to echo and reverberate voices and stuff.
Okay, that one was actually, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. That was actually in the chapel.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, some of these, the way the files are written out, like I think, they're all from the chapel. Okay, so these are all from the chapel.
Okay.
Okay, here's the next one. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Did you hear it?
I did.
Okay, one more. It's really faint.
That is exactly what I heard.
Yeah.
If somebody could.
Wow,
that was cool.
Okay, so there's 2 more. I had to think about that. It's a different time than we normally record.
Yes, it is.
Normally we would be up, it'd be late on Friday, but we're doing this around lunchtime on Saturday.
Yes. I worked all day yesterday, like all day.
So I'll be crunch time editing for the rest of today and tomorrow. But here we go. Here is another one. Also from, of course, the same place.
Who is it?
Did you hear it?
No. Do it again.
Who is it?
I don't know how many people are there, but from what I'm hearing, I think it might be, if you listen close before everybody starts talking, there's a woman's voice.
Yeah, I think I hear something. It almost sounds like they're using like a spirit box or like a portal device or something.
The only hard part about
a puck device, is that what it's called?
No, I'm not sure.
Well, there's different versions.
Because I think a puck is more like a REM pod. But okay, so here's the disadvantage that we have here, is without any kind of context, we have no idea how many people are in this group,
right?
How many of them are women or men, or whatever else, or
like watching a video and like having that visual.
Well, because it's hard to say like, okay, well, I hear this female's voice,
right?
But is this a female in the group?
Mm-hmm.
They don't sound like the rest of the group's voices, which
it doesn't sound like a normal human.
Well, that's what I'm going off of, is that the the reverberations and like the tone of the voice doesn't kind of match what everybody else in the room is doing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going off of. And there is one last one. Here we go.
Wow.
I heard that.
What?
Hold on. Here we go. One more time.
Wow.
That's weird.
Whoa, that was a very strange sound.
That was weird. So thank you, Joe. And if you want to send in more, we would love to play them on here.
Oh my gosh,
those
yes.
are fun because they are different than the ones that we hear and see on television shows that have been all doctored up. These were like real EVPs. I'm not like, saying the TV shows don't have real ones.
They feel more like just true and genuine to what you would listen back after you're at a place.
Yeah, I mean, because it feels more realistic. It doesn't feel like because a lot of shows, I'm not saying that they're not real, but they've obviously been overproduced for television, so you can really hear it. Because I want to, immediately I want to point out, like, Ghost Adventures, okay? Because they always put such a spotlight on them that they overproduce them so much that they sound weird.
Yes.
Or a lot of shows, even like Project Fear, the way they come across is, like, so very, I don't want to say unintelligible because sometimes you can't understand them, but almost unintelligible because there's so much processing on it so you can hear it.
Yeah.
But these weren't like that. These were more real world, EVPs. And I'm sure if you, the listener, want to go in and like crank your audio, you might hear things that we can't hear because, I mean, we can't really crank the audio on here without distorting it.
Yeah. And we would kill your eardrums.
Absolutely. And,
so
and our own.
We don't want to do that.
But again, Joe, thank you. Send them in.
So much.
Send them in when you got them, but we're going to get on to today's topic, and this is going to be rounding out Brushy Mountain.
Yay.
And then I have an idea for a topic for next week or maybe the week after. It's going to be a little different than something we've ever done before.
Okay. And I do want to say that I listened to another podcast, a true crime podcast, of course.
A pro-crush?
Yeah.
Nice.
A true crime podcast.
Nobody would know that you did a show.
I know, right? Nobody would know that I can't speak.
Pro-crush.
But Brushy Mountain came up as the prison that the person who did the killing in this story was sent to.
Well, Brushy Mountain is actually a very popular topic. And as you're going to see from the very beginning of this episode, the topic of Brushy goes way back. Okay. Good reaction. Good
way
reaction.
Back?
Yes.
Well, we know that from our history last week.
Okay. Yes.
But you mean like the paranormal goes way back?
No, just the idea of Brushy Mountain Prison and the people who attended Brushy Mountain.
Okay.
So I say, let's get into this one.
All right. Let's do it.
In the iconic Tennessee Ernie Ford song, 16 Tons, one stanza says, quote,
"If you see me coming, better step aside. A lot of men didn't. A lot of men died. One fist of iron, the other of steel. If the right one don't get you, the left one will. You load 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, because I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store."
The 16 tons he refers to is the amount of coal mined by a miner in a day. Yet whatever was harvested was never enough to dig the miner out of debt to the mining company. His lyrics paint a picture of the type of person who would work these mines, their toughness, swagger, and eager willingness to use their fists to solve a dispute. It also tells us that at the end of the day, the miner was simply too indebted to die no matter how hard they worked, owing money as well as their soul to the company store. Even with that mantra, many men did die in those mines and left debts their families would never be able to pay off. After 113 years of holding thieves, rapists, murderers, and everything else in its dungeon-like walls, Tennessee's Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary has opened its doors to the public, or at least those who aren't afraid of its legendary ghosts. Over the years, Brushy Mountain Prison became known as, quote, the end of the line. It opened in 1896 and housed prisoners until it closed in 2009. Numerous ghost tales are attached to the building, most stemming from the violence that occurred inside its walls. In fact, these days it's become a popular paranormal investigation site. But is Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary evil? Well, maybe not. Does it have an absolutely terrifying history, and is it rumored to be home of ghostly figures?
Yes.
Holding almost 600 inmates, the closeness of the state's hardened criminals yielded human misery every single day, with a long-standing rumor that the prison averaged one prisoner death every week. In fact, fencing had to be installed over the upper cell balconies because inmates frequently pushed one another to the concrete below. Brushy Mountain was a prison with a validated execution chamber, with the primary method being electrocution. For the time the prison was in operation, over 100 executions took place. Not to be outdone, there were numerous race riots, fires, random prison killings, and death by natural causes in the prison as well. Its construction on top of the nearby limestone helps to validate a theory that proposes there is an element to limestone that somehow amplifies paranormal activity, coupled with the fact that the prison property was also built in and around coal mines that had suffered an occasional collapse and minor deaths. The entire site was considered to be utterly grim. Previous inmates, guards, visitors, and current staff at the former prison have all claimed to have unexplainable experiences within the old Brushy Mountain prison. They have also seen, heard, felt, and even smelled things that are so out of place they are truly believed to be paranormal. One of the most famous ghosts said to haunt Brushy Mountain is that of an inmate named Jack Jett. He was a little person. He had the misfortune of developing a reputation as someone who would snitch on other inmates for having contraband. One evening, while he was making a call to his mother on one of the prison phones, he was stabbed multiple times in the back of the neck and bled to death. Inmates had reported the phone receiver levitating off the hook and then back up to it again. Also, the small phone area was said to have a tremendous cold spot and general sense of dread when standing there. No doubt from the violent and unexpected death Jett suffered. Normally considered a sanctuary, one of the most haunted parts of the entire site is the prison chapel. EVP recordings within the chapel are some of the most active to be found anywhere. While visiting the chapel, various paranormal groups have captured such words as
hell, beast,
and
pain
inside there. Whether or not the EVPs are part of a leftover sermon or not remains to be seen. Former inmates have told stories of seeing objects in the chapel area mysteriously float across the room, as well as cold spots that occurred even on the hottest of summer days. Some of the inmates would joke about going to the chapel during those excruciatingly hot summers and braving the ghost just to get cooled off. As typical with most prisons, the Hole is a dungeon-like cell that serves as the ultimate type of solitary confinement. Mental illness was often born there as the conditions bordered on torturous. Floating light orbs have been seen there, and given the fact that there is no natural light, makes their presence even more concerning. The orbs seen are not white and yellow in color, which usually indicates more gentle spirits, but instead are purple and red, which is believed to mean that whatever it is aggressive in nature. Audio recordings have also picked up the sound of footsteps and whispers within solitary confinement as well. There is an instance of an investigator who claimed to have played Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech while sitting in James Earl Ray's cell, and recorded a disembodied voice saying, "Hush." There are many recordings of strange sounds, footsteps, loud bangs, and even the sounds of anguished crying. In one amateur investigation, 2 metal folding chairs in the cafeteria were filmed sliding roughly across the floor, like they were being dragged by someone. Tour guides also claim almost daily sightings of apparitions of all kinds. Some appear as a normal person, yet are not there when you try to get a closer look. Others are dark, swirling, and nebulous masses reminiscent of the evil energy that has plagued the prison since it was built. One unsettling story claims there have been sightings of a crawling ghost in the auditorium known as the Creeper. The story says after an altercation in the auditorium during a movie, an inmate had his throat cut with a handmade prison knife. The guards put him in a padded room without medical attention where he eventually bled to death. And his anguished spirit is sometimes seen crawling on all fours across the dirty prison floor. One of the men who died in an earlier retaliatory shooting was an African-American inmate named James. And there are stories that if you leave a lit cigarette on the bars of the cell that he died in, he will take drags from that cigarette. In one investigation on YouTube, the investigator tried this experiment in James's cell with his camera rolling and his flashlight off, only leaving the lit cigarette visible to the frame. When the investigator speaks out to James, the red herring on the cigarette flares as if being smoked. He immediately turns the light on to see a large puff of smoke come from the cigarette like an exhale. Yet, there was no one there but him. If it is indeed a hoax, it appears to be a very convincing one. Based on what one could see and the reaction of the investigator, the footage would appear to be unaltered, both the cigarette and the chairs being dragged across the floor. Noises in the prison are very common too, with an overwhelming abundance of reports like voices, doors slamming, and footsteps when no one is there. There are the scariest reports of all, that of actual physical attacks on visitors. A number of people have claimed to have been touched, scratched, choked, and even made to feel physically sick within the walls of Brushy Mountain Prison. But what haunts the grounds of Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary? Do the spirits of those who died in such a tragic place remain? In the prison's files, the inmates consisted of murderers, serial killers, rapists, and the worst of Tennessee's violent criminals. One research statistic stated while the prison was in operation, it confirms a staggering 1 murder per week, and that the guards rarely had control of the prison. After one visit to Brushy Mountain, a Nashville attorney is quoted as saying, quote,
"It was like walking into the mouth of hell."
An associate warden who had previously been quoted on gang violence in the prison later told a Washington Post reporter, quote,
"We get the hard-to-manage inmates. That's the function of this institution. It's the end of the line. They're serving long sentences. They're in close confinement. You do that to a bunch of rats, and they'll start chewing on each other. Humans are not so different."
Brushy Mountain officially closed in 2009, and all of the remaining inmates were sent to serve out their sentences at the more modern Morgan County Correctional Complex. Now, the former prison is home to a distillery, restaurant, and event venue, along with multiple opportunities for tours, both historical and paranormal. Some parts of the facility have been permanently closed, like the solitary confinement block, known affectionately as the Hole. But most are still open for guided as well as overnight paranormal flashlight-only investigations. The cells are open for explorers and investigators alike. Even though the remaining prisoners were transferred out, there is little doubt that those stone walls are still a prison to the spirits of the men who were never able to walk back out of the gates, ensuring they would be serving hard labor for an eternity. And that's Brushy Mountain. it seems almost like everybody who decides to go there, the stuff that they encounter it's all very much the same.
Right.
There doesn't seem to be much of a deviation from the kind of paranormal activity that happens if you listen to stories of people who have been there.
Seems to be the same kinds of things over and
Yes.
over and over again.
And these aren't people who talk to each other. These aren't people who have met and rehearsed.
Right.
These are people who spanned, the globe as far as people who have visited, and they all have the same stories.
And they can be, a paranormal investigation team to somebody like just you or I going, and, we don't have experience per se in ghost hunting and things like that.
Hey, you bite your tongue. We investigated the lighthouse.
Yes, the St. Augustine Lighthouse,
which
we did.
I want to point something out that's completely off topic, but if anybody knows the answer, please message me and let me know. I searched yesterday for 2 hours for the clip of ghost hunters at the lighthouse and the shadow figure.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't exist anymore.
What?
You can't watch the episode anywhere. There's no clips of it on the internet. I couldn't find anything. And even I went on, I don't know, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but I went on our Fire Stick to kind of watch it, not appropriately, but all 12 files of that wouldn't even work.
What?
Yes, it's like it's like the new ghost hunters are trying to erase the old ghost hunter classics or something.
No way.
Very strange. So if you know anything about this, let me know, because I was pretty upset that I couldn't find it. That is still to this day one of my favorite clips.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely watched that entire episode before we went to the St. Augustine Lighthouse.
Not only that, but I've watched that episode probably 3,000 times, and I
Yeah.
still love it, and I cannot find it.
That's super crazy.
It's weird. But
Back to
anyways.
Brushy Mountain.
Yes, back to Brushy Mountain. Brushy Mountain, there's no issue finding stuff on Brushy Mountain. It's very abundant.
This place is definitely at the top of, especially prisons, but
Most definitely.
let alone just haunted places to go
Yeah.
for paranormal investigations.
There's you have Eastern State Penitentiary, stuff like that, they're very well known, and Brushy is no different. It's another huge name that I feel honestly gets bypassed a lot as being the most haunted, but I feel has the most potential to be the most haunted.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who go here, maybe expect to get a lot of things, but I think in most cases they might get more than they bargained for.
As we're going to find out, that is true. So,
Oh God, I haven't even read my part yet.
when do you ever, before we do this? Come on now.
I don't.
But
I
you know
just
what?
wing it. It's
You're going to
okay.
get to read it soon, right after this break.
And now, Booze Crew, back to part 2. Mention the name Brushy Mountain around a group of paranormal enthusiasts, or better yet, investigators, and we would bet all of them have it on their list of places to visit. While many historic prisons are rumored to be home to the spirits of the worst people in history, there's just something that stands out about Brushy. There's no shortage of claims, like apparitions, poltergeists, objects moving on their own, disembodied voices, and just about anything else your mind could possibly conjure up as you're lying in bed most nights, asking yourself what that creepy thing in the corner is. If you, like us and everyone else who enjoys the paranormal, have found yourself watching your favorite television ghost hunting groups or any YouTube investigators trying to climb the list of what seems like a million channels these days, then we are sure you've seen something about Brushy. An article we found on knoxnews.com, written by Ryan Woltz, titled, "Is Brushy Haunted? Ryan Woltz Faces the Paranormal with Only a Flashlight," reads, "As we pulled up to the prison, we knew we were in the right place. A structure of that size cannot be mistaken. Still, We felt as if we weren't supposed to be there. The property was barely lit, and as we looked into the distance from the barbed wire gate, no cars were in sight. We drove our way through the mist and up to the main entrance, where 4 people were anxiously waiting outside the door, some smoking cigarettes to calm their nerves. They would later join us on our exploration. Once inside what looked like an old lobby, I spoke with Debbie Williams, who has worked at the prison for 28 years. Some guests, scared of what awaited them, questioned why they went there in the first place. One man hesitated to buy the prison's "I survived" shirt until he actually made it through the night, while one woman asked to join Williams in prayer. Quote,
"We came to this location tonight to better understand the unknown. We come to you to ask to protect our hearts, minds, bodies, and souls from any and all inhuman, malevolent, foul, or evil spirits. We call on you, Archangel Michael, to stand by our sides,"
Williams said. Just as our journey through Brushy Mountain kicked off around 10 p.m., tour guide Jamie Brock picked up on our nervousness. Maybe it was the fact that we started at the solitary confinement block, which animals refused to go near, and where oinking pigs could be heard during paranormal investigations. The noises likely had something to do with Jesus casting demons into swine, Brock said as her flashlight went out. In an attempt to calm us, Brock told us we would not be going inside the solitary confinement area. The area has been sealed off, which has caused spirits to lurk off elsewhere, she said. The only problem? We would be going elsewhere. Quote,
"Just so you know, everyone still inside these walls are dead. They won't eat your souls,"
Brock said to the group. One could only guess what bodies these spirits once belonged to. Although Brock said investigators have heard names like Leroy, James, and Ben uttered from nothingness. I was told by our tour guides that prisoners were severely beaten and hanged on the property. One was even chopped up and flushed down the toilet. According to a 1982 article from the Washington Post, violence in prisons is more the rule. The Post article detailed a hostage situation at Brushy Mountain, during which white prisoners shot and killed 2 black prisoners in their cells while injuring others. It was hard to believe that I was among those same cells. I walked inside one cell and spread my arms into my widest wingspan. My fingertips on both hands were just an inch away from the walls. Some walls were chipping, likely from fingernails or prison shanks. Other walls were decorated with elaborate drawings and tally marks, counting the prisoners' days inside. Then we walked past the bars that once secured James Earl Ray. Brock said investigators have played the "I have a dream" speech near the cell, which led to a paranormal reading of someone muttering,
"Hush."
After hearing loud bangs that turned out to be nothing, my hopes were down until I saw a shadow through a window, and then through another. Every time my eyes moved toward it, it seemed to go away. Perhaps it was just my imagination, and perhaps another group member also imagined the whisper in his ear near the suicide watch area of the penitentiary. But these 2 experiences aren't too different from what others experience on these tours, Brock said. quote from an article on Joe Blow Enterprises reads, quote,
Brushy Mountain Pen is one of the most unique prisons I've ever investigated. I first explored this location in 2018 with the Nick Groff tour. In solitary confinement, I connected with a spirit that was directly communicating and giving insight about the location. I was intrigued to learn more after this experience. Having the opportunity to revisit the location recently for the Nick Groff Investigates helped me understand some theories that I was thinking about since I left. With an estimated 10,000 deaths, I felt the energy could definitely still be lingering. What I discovered was a direct line to the other side in one of the dark cells in the hole. I was having a conversation with who I believed to be an inmate. The strange activity picked up as the weather outside changed. Static electricity and sounds started a ripple effect in the atmosphere. At the same time, I noticed an increase in unexplainable phenomena. The man's voice I was talking to through my audio device became more clear. My theory I had about the reality we live in can cross over into the reality of the inmate that is living in a different time. The reason I came to this conclusion is because of the evidence I documented. This location would have been scary to be a prisoner, but today I'm intrigued more than frightened. I want to further the research because it's the perfect environment to connect with somebody from the other side. Amazing location with a lot of tragic death. The history continues through the stories and experiences people still have today. I journeyed into the darkness beyond the prison walls, where inmates lived out their lives, and I felt the energy that still resonates from what the prisoners called hell on earth.
While some people clearly have a more romantic opinion of what has and is happening at Brushy, it remains impressive that a multitude of people who have never met or talked can walk through the doors and share a similar, if not identical, experience. Whether you believe in the claims or not, it doesn't seem to stop whatever is there from making its presence known by those looking for them. But what do everyday people, those without blogs and YouTube channels who have visited the prison, have to say about it? Jill W. from TripAdvisor.com writes, quote,
My husband and I were visiting Tennessee and stopped at a welcome center. After finding the brochure, we put it on our bucket list. We did the self-guided tour, watched the video, and walked the museum. We learned a lot from the information stations set up throughout the buildings. We ate the killer potato at the warden's table, and it was delicious. We sampled some end-of-the-line moonshine and bought one for a souvenir. Without even trying, we had a paranormal experience. Had a great time learning the history and touring the scenic landmark.
Brittany W. from TripAdvisor.com says, quote,
If you're looking to encounter the paranormal, then you need to come here. I took my 4 young children there. After our visit, I wouldn't bring them back, but I want to come for a ghost tour. It was way creepier than we expected. My 2-year-old definitely didn't like the vibe there. After coming home and looking at our photos, it's obvious why.
And one more. Trail 401758 on TripAdvisor.com says, quote, My spouse and I went with 2 other couples for the 4-hour investigation from 10 to 2 a.m. Jamie took us and showed us around and gave us a brief history of the location and its buildings.
This is not our first paranormal investigation, and I could say it was the place that had the most activity. We did have a voice box and EMF meter, and had borrowed dowsing rods. The dowsing rods moved in conjunction with the EMF meter, and we also got some intelligent feedback throughout the night. I personally was asking questions, and in one of the buildings next to the cell, we heard a loud bang. When we asked who was there, an answer said yes, and we heard a recording that said,
I'm here.
A few moments later, I got smacked on the backpack, and everyone heard the noise. So it's not something that was in my imagination. In the laundry room, several of us saw a white light, and we were in total darkness. Very cool experience. An active facility. I would recommend visiting. Very friendly staff.
We would normally ask you what you think about a place like this, but it doesn't seem to matter what everyone thinks about the goings-on here at Brushy. Believers have long since known this place to be a proving ground, a guaranteed location to find compelling evidence. Skeptics who are beyond sure the paranormal doesn't exist often leave Brushy with a different view on the possibilities of something going on. We can conclude anything we would like in this case. It's real. It isn't real. Maybe something's happening. Maybe it isn't. But ask anyone who has been to Brushy Mountain, looking for the spirits of those prisoners who never got to leave. And we would bet they will all tell you that you won't need to look very long, because they've already found you, and they're just waiting to make their presence known.
I don't know how I would feel if I went there for a flashlight tour and they tell me that the worst place is shut down, so all the ghosts have migrated, so don't worry, but they've migrated to the areas that you have to go to.
Right? They're just like, yeah, they're not really here anymore, but everywhere else we're going to go, yeah, that's where they are.
They're like, don't be scared because you can't go in there, but be scared because they're everywhere else that you're going to be.
They're all around you.
So I wanted to highlight the fact that this place has been covered by news people and bloggers and then regular people. But the reason that I did that, because I know some of the stories were, especially the Joe Blow article one,
right,
it's very romanticized. But what I want everybody to get from that is that while everybody has a different story, they all seem to share the same occurrences that happen. Like all the evidence seems to be the same.
Right.
And to me, that speaks highly in a way that a lot of people go to places and they claim it's haunted, but they have a million different reasons why. Right. Whereas this place has a million different people who go there and all share the same experience. And that's a big deal.
It's like almost like a reoccurring thing makes it a more reassurable thing.
Does it make it a residual? Instead of an intelligent, minus the cigarette on the ledge. There's no way that couldn't be, an intelligent haunting. But the fact that people hear hush and the same words over and over in the same places, wouldn't that make it more of a residual haunting?
I don't know though, because if you think of living in a prison and living prison life day to day, it is very structured. It is you do the same things every single day at the same times. And maybe that's just the vibe that stays around.
Maybe.
I don't know.
It's something to think about. But so Brushy Mountain, oh God, so many people have walked through that door. So many people have just shared the same experiences. It's really crazy. But the one of the oddest things I found out is that today you can go there and have a beer and lunch. And from what I understand, the food there is second to none.
Really?
It's supposed to be like incredibly good.
I think it's really cool though. They take like an old prison like that and they kind of turn it into something, that's intricate for the town itself. Like, who turns a prison into a restaurant and brewery?
When I post
but like leave the rest to still do all the paranormal stuff. It's crazy.
When we post up the episode, I want to include a picture of the dining room area because it is probably one of the coolest dining room areas I've ever seen.
Really?
It looks like a prison cafeteria, but upscale.
So it's like the restaurant part. It was built in the kitchen area?
I think
maybe?
so. I think that's where it's at. But like it still uses like the bench style tables like you would see in an old prison movie.
Right.
But they're like made out of like high end wood and real nice, and the decor is real nice. But you're in the prison. But it somehow it all comes together and looks really nice.
That is really cool.
It's pretty nice.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. But this is Brushy Mountain. I'm gonna play a couple EVPs because I'm only probably gonna play like 2. Because we did listen to like 4 or 5 last week.
Yeah.
And one of them was like 6.5 minutes that I had to edit down and listen to nothing.
Yeah, but that was just preparation for all the more spooky ookings to come.
Yes. It was still pretty unbearable. But, so this first one actually comes from Facebook. And it's from Frontier Paranormal something. I can't read the whole thing. Frontier, we'll just call them Frontier Paranormal. EVP from Brushy Mountain Penitentiary in the cafeteria. One of our investigators asked the question, did you kill somebody? A slight pause for cutting line. I don't know what that means. During the pause, you can hear a faint, I'm not telling you.
Okay.
We still have lots of video and audio to go through. We'll post more as we sort through all of it. So there's got to be more from this group out there because this was in 2018.
Nice.
I'm going to let it play a few times, and let's see what you hear.
Okay.
So, what did you hear?
Okay, so he asks, did you kill somebody? And in that pause, it sounds like you hear a whisper that says, I did. And then he continues, and he's like, for cutting in line.
Okay. You heard more than what they said was there. They said that that whispery sound is a no.
Really?
Yes.
I heard I did.
I believe you. Because you're really good at this.
Not really, but okay.
But the cutting the line thing, yes, I heard that as well. But I think that may have been them.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he was like pausing, like, hey, did you kill somebody for cutting in line? But like in that break is...
They say he says no. So you hear what you hear. Hey,
Hey, it's all up for interpretation because guess what? Nobody really knows.
I can't agree with that more. This is... Okay, so the next one, it comes from a TikTok page. By the account is SROCF. It's S.R.O.C.F. And it says, EVP captured during solo investigation in the hole at Brushy Mountain Penitentiary. Now, this is just an EVP. There's no other voices. There's no human voices in this. And it's like a second long clip. I'm just going to let it play over and over for, a few times. And then you tell me what you hear.
And I just want to say, solo trip.
Oh, yeah.
What a brave soul.
Absolutely not.
My God.
I don't know if I could do that. I'm not scared of the dark or anything, but
no.
I don't know. But all right, I'm going to let it go a few times.
All right.
Just jump right into it. It's just one word over and over.
I can't make out what the word is saying, but I can definitely hear something.
It is one word saying no.
Really?
No.
I hear more syllables than that.
I don't.
No?
I can only hear no.
Huh.
So that's just one of those things. It's up for interpretation, because they're EVPs, and unless they're actually saying something,
yeah, EVPs
don't really know.
Yeah, They don't come with subtitles.
All right, I'm going to play one more. And this one comes from TikTok as well.
Okay.
This is from Fearful Encounters on TikTok. And it says, this is at Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary. I was recording a video because this was my favorite part of the prison. I didn't know that I caught something till I got home. There was women on the other side talking at the end. You hear her say, royal treatment. But there is someone before that whisper yelling into my phone that I cannot explain.
Ooh,
So-
I like these that are like, oh, I was just there doing a tour
Yeah.
and whoopsie, here's
Because-
something that I found way later.
Yeah, because this is TikTok, it's going to just loop itself. And it's another quick one, so I'm going to let it loop a few times.
Okay.
And then you tell me what you think you hear, because they do have a caption here that what they think it might be saying.
Okay.
So what do you hear? It's a pretty spooky voice, man.
Oh, man.
Jeez. But what do you think it's saying?
To me, it sounds like, look at that, get back.
Pretty close.
I don't know, something along those lines.
That's pretty close.
Yeah?
They believe it says, let me out now, or get me out now.
Really?
Yep. And they're right at a prison door, like a cell door.
Ooh.
That's a pretty good one. So those
Ooh,
are
they were like, get me
Yeah.
out.
yeah.
Get me out.
It sounded very mad.
Yes.
And evil.
Ooh.
But those are the last of the EVPs we're going to be playing about Brushy Mountain. And I mean, there's a ton. And there's
So much out there.
So many videos on
Yes.
Brushy Mountain. So it shouldn't be hard to go consume some Brushy Mountain content.
And if no one has ever seen or watched anything on this place, I highly suggest you do.
Yeah, it's a good one. And everybody goes in there already afraid.
Yes.
So I think
it's
it-
already this like built up thing.
Yeah, it feeds it. It
does.
It feeds the emotion in the video alone, even if anything doesn't happen. But there's usually some pretty good videos, because this is one of those places. Literally, if you've seen a ghost hunter on YouTube, they probably every single one of them have been there.
Yeah. This is up there. This is a good one.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of part 2, and of course, I'm going to have to ask you an important question that goes. So we're all on the edge of our seats wondering, Megan, do you think the Brushy Mountain is really haunted?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Yes, I absolutely do think this place is haunted. I think that the constant and consistent same paranormal evidence that people get across the board speaks volumes to what this place has and holds inside its walls.
Okay.
I think maybe adding like the restaurant and like doing those renovations to parts of the building may have ramped some things up. I'd be curious to know like when that happened.
I'm pretty sure this place has had claims of paranormal activity since far before it became a popular paranormal spot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know.
Like the prisoners, like in the story, the prisoners were talking about going to the chapel to brave the heat, to get to the cold spots, basically.
Yeah. And that's definitely something paranormal, I would assume.
And the phone levitating. That all happened
Yeah.
when it was still a prison.
That's
You got to remember, this place
so crazy.
This place has only been closed for like 14 years.
yeah.
It hasn't been closed that long.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoy this place. I am so glad we did this.
Thanks, Damien.
Yes. Thank you. So I'm going to throw that back at you, babe.
Yes,
What about you?
I think it's on the, I mean, this is an easy one. I think
Yeah.
Anybody who has like learned anything about this place is probably going to agree, because this is truly one of those places where skeptical people come out of here believing something's there. This isn't one of those ones that leaves you with questions. This is a place where almost everybody who goes through has some kind of experience. And there was even a lot of like TripAdvisor reviews where people didn't go there for the paranormal tour. They went there to eat and they had an experience.
Yeah.
I mean, people who weren't even trying.
Right.
So
They're just like, oh, I want to go get something to eat.
this is up there for me, in my opinion, with the places that we have discussed on this show
Yeah.
that are probably more haunted than not.
I think all the listeners can tell by our answers to the question.
The question.
It's definitely an immediate answer
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't this the place that Paranormal Nightmare went,
Yes.
where Sean
Yes.
had like the burning scratches?
Yes.
Feeling on,
Yeah.
I think it was like his arm. No, it was like his abdomen or
It was something like that, but I know what you're talking about, and yes, it is. This is also the place that I believe they caught the audio of a shotgun blast. Remember
That's
that?
right.
Pretty sure that
Yes.
it was Brushy Mountain.
Yeah, and I think he had to like trek across the entire prison to get out, and that burning sensation did not stop until he walked out the doors.
That's right. Yep, it is that place. So I guess that is it, and that means that Brushy Mountain, I mean, I don't think anybody had any doubts, but it's going to get
The big old seal of approval.
and that will do it for part 2. And I have an idea for next week that if I can find enough about it, I want to do it because it's not a location.
Ooh.
It's something different. And I would like to try this out because it's a very interesting topic.
I like it. I don't even know
so,
what it is, and
I
I
know.
like it.
We'll talk about it after.
Okay.
So where can they find us?
They can find us on Instagram at For the Booze,
Holy crap, we're on Instagram.
For the Booze _podcast, and on Facebook at For the Booze.
What, we're on Facebook?
We are.
Oh my goodness. We're also on the old Twitter, now X, at For the Booze, and YouTube at For the Booze, where if you'd like to watch a stat screen with it, that's fine. And don't forget to come support us on TikTok.
We're on TikTok.
I am a 42-year-old man who's making TikToks like a 16-year-old girl right now. And don't worry.
Pumping them out.
Don't worry. If you don't want to see me dance to new songs, I don't do that. So we're good. It's all paranormal content.
Yes,
just like,
it is.
Like little tiny short form versions of kind of, I guess, what the show would be.
And I know I personally do not have TikTok.
I know you make me do it all.
Oh my gosh. But can I just say that what you are doing and creating over there, everything is just getting better and better and better.
Well, thank you.
And I really like it. Everybody should come check out our videos. Well,
you get to see my face on there.
Yeah.
And yours.
And mine on a couple.
Looking scrumptious in that one that we just did. I love it. I've been watching it on loop when you're not here.
Oh.
But anyways, so come support us on TikTok. We'd like to get a little following on there. And don't forget, if you have a location suggestion or show suggestion, it doesn't have to be location, or you just want to write in your paranormal stories, or maybe you have a story of somebody else you know, because we have had that before. Write it into fortheboost12@gmail.com, or even just to say hi. We do like to talk to listeners, because what better way to get to like custom make our content to what you guys want to hear, but getting to know you.
Absolutely. And we would love to hear from you, even if it's just to say, hey. We'll be like, hey.
Hey. Hi.
How's it going?
But anyways, I guess we should probably get out of here because I have a lot of editing to do now.
I know you do, and I have to go to work.
Ooh.
Well, thank you, everybody, so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Oh, bonus anybody if you can figure out where we stole our outro from. Ha ha ha. I'm never going to say it, but if you can guess it, maybe we'll come up with something. Later.